Hello, this is Amanda and Brian from West Virginia Gamers, and we have Shiro Games with us to discuss two of their upcoming titles. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. If you could, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Shiro Games.
Not a problem at all. Hi, I'm James. I'm the community manager here at Shiro Games with the creators of Darksburg, which is coming out of early access next week on the 23rd of September. We're the creators of Northgard, which has just celebrated its 2 millionth unit sale. We also created Evoland 1 and 2 and the recent compilation Evoland Legendary Edition.
Awesome. With Darksburg currently on Steam's early access program and is slated to release next week for version 1.0, this game is a cooperative action game where the players take on the roles of survivors trying to escape the town of Darksburg that has been overrun by the undead. What can you tell us about the story that's led the town of Darksburg to be in this situation?
Okay, all right. So that's quite an open-ended question. Well, an open-ended answer, because a lot of the story in the game is based around the items that you pick up, and the lore of the town and the history of the town is something that's part of the allure of the of the game, I guess. In that, as you play through, you'll start picking up more and more of the narrative and slowly piecing together an idea of what went down. I don't really want to spoil the story as it is right now, but there was a major outbreak at some point recently within the last month or two that quickly spread throughout the town, began zombifying the townsmen, and some of the more prominent members of the town had been affected slightly worse than others, and you'll be coming across those guys in the form of revenants throughout the game. And you're also fighting to overcome the corrupted leader of the town, Baron von Darksburg, who you'll end up meeting as soon as you play.
In this game, you have the option to play as a different group of survivors. Can you introduce each of them to us to kind of give us an idea of their unique quirks and personalities?
Yep, absolutely. You have Dolorosa, who is a plague doctor who was actually introduced during the early access phase. She is a bit unconventional. A lot of her move repertoire is about placating or curing the zombies and trying to overcome them with a variety of wacky kind of medications and concoctions that she's created during her time as a scientist and doctor. You also have Runolf, who is the gleeful gourmet, who before the outbreak was he was a chef, a very well-renowned chef in Darksburg, and he's more of the healer. He plays the healer role within the game, and he'll be the guy that you depend on to pick you back up when you've been knocked down. You also have Abigail, who was a nun and a former warrior beforehand. How that happened, again, you'll have to find out when you play the game. But she's got the classic spin to win technique and a number of awesome moves in her repertoire that can draw the zombies into a certain area so that other people with AoE attacks and stuff are able to take them out more quickly. You have Rose and Twig, who are more crossbow and attacking from distance as opposed to getting all up into the action. They're really fun to play. Twig is a chipmunk who she uses, and she can throw into the action to deal damage to the zombies and slow them down while she takes them out from afar. No chipmunks are harmed during the making or whilst playing Darksburg, as of yet, at least. And finally, we have Varag, who is a wolf man, not to be confused with a werewolf. He's not a werewolf, as I'm repeatedly told by our development team. He is a wolf man. He was born this way. He was never turned into anything. He's in the initial release of Darksburg, he was a more defensive build. He had a shield and it was all about the up-close attack, getting into the action, holding them back and attacking up close. We've made some changes based on user feedback to make him more of a ranged player, so he can now throw his shield. He can repeatedly use his attacks. He's more capable from distance. As the game has shifted, we've tried to adapt all of the characters to be able to work within that game. And that's the main team. These are the survivors, the guys that you're going to be playing with as you play Darksburg.
They certainly sound like an interesting cast of characters. It'll be exciting to kind of get to explore their stories throughout the gameplay.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's a really nice gallery of players. They all complement each other well, and they're all, as we've gone from it being primarily focused on 4-player experiences, and we've cut it down to 2. They complement each other well. They kind of synergize whatever one character is deficient in. the other characters can always pick up the slack and help them out on the other side. So it's very dependent on cooperative gameplay, but you can play single player with an AI companion. The AI companions are fantastic. And it's just a really enjoyable experience, and working out the best ways to play all of these characters and the best builds that you can create with them and stuff like that.
Awesome. So, since you mentioned the cooperative play, this is up to 4 players, correct?
Yeah, well, technically up to 8.
Oh, okay.
So it's 4 players in what we call the main mode of Darksburg, which is Outbreak, which is the roguelite, procedurally generated, create a build, develop your character, improve over time with repeated runs. However, when we first released, it was more of a Left 4 Dead style game that was focused on. It was 8 players at the time, so you could do up to 8 players, where 4 players would play as the survivors and 4 players could play as the revenant super zombies, who all have their own special abilities and stuff. We've put less focus on that over time as we worked with the community, and we started to understand what their preferred direction for the game was. It's still available to play in game. It's still a lot of fun to play, but most of our focus and resources have moved towards the procedurally generated Outbreak mode, the roguelite, as it were. But yeah, technically up to 8 players, but 4 players is the kind of the sweet spot that we're looking for at the moment, whereas 2 players is what it's designed around, but it can be up to 4 players. Awesome. If that's not too confusing a run-on of a sentence.
Well, no, that makes sense.
Okay.
Now, obviously, online play is an option. Is there any local play options for that, or is it all online multiplayer?
At this time, there's no local options, but that's something that we're talking with the dev team about. We'd like to get LAN play involved somehow. Right now, it's purely online.
Awesome. That certainly sounds like Darksburg's building up to be a pretty awesome sounding game. Anything else? Yeah. Anything else you want to kind of tell us about the game before we move on to Northgard?
Buy it. It's one of those experiences that you really can't get a full understanding of until you've played it. It's very different to what you'd expect from a normal roguelite, whilst maintaining a lot of what makes roguelites kind of unique and interesting. So it's got a very distinct world, a lot of distinct characters, and it's the kind of game that you can play through over and over again and still never get bored. We've tried to design it in a way that it's infinitely replayable. You're always finding ways of creating new builds and new ways to play the characters, and it's just something that you really should check out if you get the chance to.
Absolutely, and I've watched quite a few playthroughs or partial playthroughs from a lot of people, and it seems like a lot of people are having fun with this one. So I definitely encourage people to check this one out. So
thanks. We say the same.
All right, so moving on to a game that you actually mentioned yourself that's been out for 2 years now, Northgard. It is available currently on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Steam, good old game, and Origin, or whatever EA is going to call their platform now that they've kind of decided to move away from the branding of Origin. So
yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there.
So Northgard is a real-time strategy game where you are seizing control of a land of Northgard as Vikings. You're trying to build up your town to survive the harsh winters and other threats. Mm-hmm. If you were introducing this game to new players, what would you tell them about Northgard that allows the game to stand out?
So Northgard is kind of the brainchild of the very small company that we had about 2 or 3 years ago, where our team came together and said, what kind of game could we make right now that we ourselves would play, but how can we make it something that's ours, create our own identity with it? And we had a lot of people that were RTS fans. We had a lot of people that were 4X fans. And they found a way of bringing all of that together to make one cohesive and enjoyable product. So it's a mix of 4X, it's a mix of RTS, it's a mix of city builders. So you see a lot of Civ in there, a lot of settlers, a lot of Total War and stuff like that. And they brought that together to make it into one cohesive, enjoyable experience that's easy to learn, but hard to master, especially hard to master in my case. I did a stream the other day where it was awful. It was just public embarrassment. Whereas normally I can recommend anybody to jump into the game and play it for the first time, and they'll know exactly what to do. But it's going to take a while to be at the up to the standard of some of our professional players. It's a very welcoming, very enjoyable game. you're never going to have the same game twice. Once again, we've used procedural generation to create our maps, so you're never going to have the same map. You're never going to have the same layout. You're always going to have to adapt the way you approach every game and your strategy. And we also introduced a number of different clans within the game who have their own flavors and styles and benefits, perks, and techniques that use these to gain advantage over the clans that they're fighting for the conquest of Northgard over. And it's just a very fun, very different way of approaching the RTS experience in general. Interesting.
So I personally don't play a whole lot of RTSs. I've kind of seen a lot of hardcore gamers playing a lot of them, and I'm always fearful of putting in tons of hours into one of these games and just having it all be ruined. As someone who is kind of new to this style of game, what tips would you have for me who may start a game of this? Like, is there clans that's a little better for newer players? Is there certain things you should build out early to kind of make your experience early on a little better?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the thing that I say to our community, especially newcomers a lot of the time, is have a look at the different clans. You can start off, you can play single player, you can do PvE, put it on the lowest difficulty setting. Take a chance to jump into each of the clans, see which of their skills and their techniques and their efficiencies most resonate with your kind of playstyle. You have clans which are fast-paced and quick off the mark to create a huge military. Then you have other ones that are more about building up the city and creating resources and making stability within their towns before becoming a military powerhouse later in the game. You have other ones that will push for victory without going into battle whatsoever by following law or any of the other win conditions that aren't military based. So when you get into the game, the best thing a newcomer can do is jump in, try out the different clans, take it easy. It's not a high stress game. Something that we really pride Northgard on is the fact that you can just relax. It's a relaxing experience, ignoring the blizzards that occasionally come up, which are the opposite of relaxing. But regardless, it's something that you can take your time to learn. You can build your skills. You can try out everything that the game has to offer, so that you can work out exactly what your preferred clan is and what your preferred way of tackling what the game throws at you is. And that's and also check out the guys on YouTube. We have a really cool community on YouTube who put together playthroughs and tips and tricks and the best ways to approach Northgard if you're a newcomer. That's probably the best advice I can give you is stick to YouTube, try everything out, take it easy, don't get overwhelmed. We've tried to make sure that Northgard isn't an overwhelming experience, so you can just jump in, you can see what it's all about, and it's mostly self-explanatory, everything that you need to do, and it's very open-ended. You can create whatever buildings you want. Obviously, if you're going for the high-level play, you're not going to be doing that from the start, but down the line, you'll begin to work out the best way, the best build options and the best build methods and all of that kind of stuff. But to begin with, take it easy, enjoy the game, enjoy the different clans, and see what works for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I've watched a few videos, and it looks like it definitely stands out from a lot of other RTSs where it isn't quite as stressful. So I definitely agree with kind of how you describe it there. So beyond the winters that we've kind of mentioned, what are some other threats that players are going to encounter in this game?
So Northgard's inhabited by a load of mystical creatures and monsters and events that you're going to have to overcome or go head-to-head with on the battlefield eventually, such as most of them are derived from Norse mythology. So you have stuff like the Merkabah, the Jotun, the kobolds. You're also going to come across normal wildlife like sheep, which you won't have to fight. You can actually farm, wolves and stuff like that. You can come across draugrs. And then you're also going to have natural events that will occur, such as the blizzard that I mentioned. You can have in the Ragnarok game mode, there can be a volcano that explodes that will send rocks flying across the map, which will eventually become rock golems, which you'll have to overcome. Most of the time that will land inside your territory, and it could be quite the experience as you see all of your villagers fleeing for their lives away from these rock golems that have just spawned in the middle of their town. There's also a kraken that will occasionally just attack your longship docks. That's not quite a natural event. I don't know if that would fall under the natural event banner, but it's something that happens, and it's something you're going to have to prepare for. You can also have outbreaks of sickness due to rats getting into your into your food supplies. There's a bunch of things that will happen throughout the game that will make each game different, that you'll have to plan for in advance, and that you'll have to work out the best strategy to avoid, or to be able to maintain the status quo within your territory, within all of these potential events that could occur.
It definitely sounds like each play will be very different because of all the variety, because of those different threats. So that definitely sounds really interesting. So What can you tell us about the multiplayer mode in this game?
Okay, so the multiplayer mode is kind of your standard RTS. You can choose your clan. You'll go up against, it's a lobby system. We don't have a matchmaking system at the moment, but it's never ever a struggle to find a game. We have a fantastically engaged community that are always playing, always welcoming. We'll always bring in newcomers and try and show them the ropes and help them around. And with that, you can choose your clans. You can go head to head in a free for all up to 6 or 8. I think it's 6. I'm pretty sure it's 6. Other clans. You can go into teams, so you can team up against 2 against 2, 3 against 3, or 2v2v2. You can also do conquest in co-op, which is a side mode, something that we introduced during the last few months. In fact, the tail end of last year, we introduced conquest, in which is can be a co-op campaign where you have to progress through a series of increasingly difficult challenges that the game throws at you, where you're going to be set in different scenarios that you have to overcome. You can do that co-op with one other player, and we have ranked and casual play. We've got a very good community in both. It's very open-ended in what you can do and how you can approach the game from a multiplayer standpoint.
Excellent. It definitely sounds like there's a lot of variety there for allowing players to have different experiences jumping into the different player modes then. So,
that was our goal.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to tell us about Northgard?
Well, we've just released our most recent DLC clan, the Clan of the Lynx. They went out on Steam on Wednesday. It's Friday now. Yep, on Wednesday. They're a fantastic clan to play. They're focused on hunting. They have an unrivaled connection with wildlife. They have 2 lynxes, which are part of their military. Their leader, Miliki, is an older blind woman who uses the lynx as her eyes and has an unrivaled control over the nature and wildlife of Northgard. They're a really interesting, really different clan compared to everything else that we've brought to the game in the past. And it's a really unconventional style of play that they bring to the game that are really, really cool and very, very much worth checking out. On top of that, we have a ton of stuff lined up. We've got free updates around the corner. We try to make sure that we constantly have free updates going out to the game. We want to make sure that we keep it supported for as long as possible. We have a fantastic community that we don't want to let down, that have been supporting us for a long time. So we try to repay them with solid support of the game, and to make sure that we've always got content coming in. People are always enjoying Northgard. It's it's non-stop for us at the moment. There's always something new just around the corner, and it's no different now.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to be bored, so always continue to build that community.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so that was Darksburg and Northgard. Is there anything else you want to tell us about with either of those games that we haven't covered, or any of your other titles you'd like to mention?
Well, we've just released Evoland Legendary Edition through WVGamers on PS4, the physical version. You can also pick up the vinyl soundtracks for those games. Evoland is a series that is based around almost homaging and celebrating the legacy of classic games and classic game genres. It's an incredible experience, and something that you can only really get a good understanding of by watching a few videos and checking it out on Steam. Evoland Legendary Edition is available on Steam now. You can check out some of the images, you can check out some of the videos. It's a fantastic RPG where I don't want to spoil the story. So check out the Steam page. It's really enjoyable. It's available on PS4 now physically through WVGamers. It's available digitally on all platforms: PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC. Check it out. Other than that, Darksburg releases on the 23rd of September, next week on Wednesday. It comes out of early access, bringing a bunch of new content. And I think that's about it.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we share out some of the links to each of those games to kind of get some more eyes on it. So we
you
really
so much.
appreciate you sitting down with us today to kind of discuss these different titles, and we look forward to telling more people about them. So,
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Absolutely. So, thank you for taking the time with us, and have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.